Welcome to the business edition of PM Express. Some may describe them as the backbone of the economy because of their contributions to the country. We're wondering what I'm talking about. That is small and medium-scale enterprises in the country. But it looks like, how are they managing things right now because of the coronavirus? And would that actually threaten their existence, or they will survive? On the business edition of PM Express, you're looking at these small businesses out there and what they are doing now to manage the effects, the shocks, the storms of the coronavirus, and whether indeed they will survive or not. I'll be speaking to a cross-section of small business owners from manufacturing to, let's just say, those who are in the media space, as well as the food business, and even in the fashion space. And what about the person who actually oversees all these people, and in terms of coach and advice? I'll be speaking to all these people here on the business edition of PM Express as we talk about SMEs and the coronavirus. Will they survive or they'll fall out? My name is Aboagye-Wiafe. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back from the break, and today on the business edition of PM Express, we're talking about the SMEs and the coronavirus. This pandemic has actually collapsed those mighty firms, those big firms out there. Maybe these SMEs would just not find their foot and space in the economy and even in the business space. That is why we are trying to find out on the business edition of PM Express how they are managing. What are their challenges right now? And will the business module change post the coronavirus, or it will be business as usual? Today on the business edition of PM Express, I have with me in studio Tony Senior. He is with Horseman Shoes. And thank you, bro. And how are you doing?
I'm good, George.
And also on via Zoom, I'll be joined by Mayor Deborah. He's into content production. Charles Mensah. He is a financial consultant and also an SME coach. Kukubediako is into the fashion business, and Hisham Seydou is into meat production. And all these are young guys out there managing their own firms and see whether they can manage it through this pandemic. Tony, welcome to the business edition of PM Express.
Thank you very much, George.
How have you been doing? It's quite a long time since we heard from Horseman Shoes.
Well, the horse was running until Corona found us. So yes, we've been around, we've been doing business.
How has this whole pandemic impacted on your business?
Like you said in your introduction, even the mighty are falling, you know. So for us, when the first 2 cases were announced, that particular week, our sales dropped.
Interesting. How did it drop? Because these were stuff that people place orders at your end.
Yes.
So where lies the connection about the thing dropping and all those things?
I think because, like, more or less, we were expectant. We were a bit anxious if it will get to our shores.
Yeah.
And when it did get here, the panic began immediately, and it worked on the psyche of people. You see, shoes is more or less like a lifestyle product.
Yeah.
You know, people must be in a certain mood to buy shoes. So immediately, the president announced that there were 2 cases found in Ghana. The anxiety shifted the minds of people from shoes. So in that particular week, nobody walking.
I wanted to get practical. So for instance, a customer like Aboagye-Wiafe had placed an order at your end maybe for 5 shoes before that announcement. Post the announcement, did that guy say that he's not coming for the stuff? Or what? Or you had across all your customers, people telling them that they
now we have people who walk in. We have a showroom where people walk in to pick shoes off the shelf.
Okay.
You know, so those orders we were working on. So when the orders midstream, then the lockdown came. Yeah. So we had to put everything on hold and close shop and go home. You know. So yes, even and the week after, we even closed shop a week before the general lockdown was announced, because some of our workers, most of our workers come to work via public transport. Yeah. And once the cases were increasing, we didn't want to expose them. We had to minimize the risk.
You thought it was best to let them stay home.
And like I said, even around that time, nobody was buying shoes.
What about you? I know that you also sublet these making of these shoes to certain manufacturing firms to work on it for you. What happened, if you can just run us through that process in terms of when they were working on these stuff and then you told them that, listen, hold on to it.
Okay, so our manufacturing unit is in Kumasi. Okay. So the Kumasi guys were working until the announcement came from the president that Kumasi and Accra folks should stay indoors. So yes, they took some of the work home, the ones that they could do to a point, because you need machines to finish them up. So they did what they could do without the machines, and when they were done, they had to just stay home till we were released on Tuesday, on Monday.
These were orders that were placed by clients. So what happened to where some are saying that, listen, okay, I don't need them again, so let me have my
George,
my what happened? Because
no, they didn't,
a contract.
Yeah, they didn't take their monies. They didn't take their monies. It was, we were obliged to fulfill the obligation. We were obliged to fulfill their part of the contract. So what I'm saying is, we did not even get to the point where we will finish the shoes. Do you understand? We didn't finish the shoes. We were in the process of producing before the lockdown came. But quite apart from that, others are just one aspect of our business.
Okay.
We have a showroom where we have shoes on display, open to the general public. Anybody at all can walk in and pick a shoe from the shelf. You know. So around that period, nobody was coming.
You were employing quite a number of people as well. So how were you managing these people? Where when they come to work, you take the boxes and then you pay them. They were being asked to stay home for 2 weeks. Nothing was coming in.
Actually, we did 4 weeks. So
you're supposed to pay these workers of yours. I mean, how did you do it, or how did you get around?
Well, this wasn't this was a global pandemic, and all of them listened to the news, so they knew what was at stake. So yes, we sat down and told them that, look, Chief, guys,
don't tell me that they agreed to you saying that, listen, Tonya, we know that we are not working, so you are prepared to take a pay cut, or
of course, George. Even big corporations were negotiating with their staff to pay them a certain percentage of their salary. And like I said, our business or our revenue comes from solely sales. So if we were not selling, meaning we were not making money, and figures don't lie, they could see it, you know.
So how did you deal with them? And that is what I want to get there.
It wasn't a difficult conversation we had.
They gladly accepted that.
Of course, because we didn't have money, and we were even thinking of how long this will last. How are we going to go through this? Is it going to take a week, a month, 2 months? How will you survive?
So
at that point, we are all in the same boat, you know, weathering the storm.
They agreed to it.
They agreed.
Interesting, by the power of technology, we are connecting with our several panelists or guests on this program, Mayor Deborah, Hisham Seidu, and also Charles Mensah. He is a financial consultant and an SME coach. Let me first start with Hisham Seidu. You are into meat production, right? So how did it all start for you? How did this thing actually hit you? Because we knew that food was excused from this, so we are still going ahead to eat. Or was it bad for you?
Most of my business comes from industry players. So it started hitting us when the borders were closed and flights stopped coming in. We lost close to 70% of our business because most of our institutional clients, as hotels and restaurants, had to close down. But then it started to transform, getting closer to the lockdown, because more of our domestic clients were now more interested in stocking up for the lockdown. So it meant we needed to shift focus. But it also took us a while to try and figure ourselves out, because here I am thinking about the safety of my workers and also how to get stuff to our clients safely and keeping everybody intact. So gradually, our first week of lockdown, I mean, we had to stop operations. But the second week going, we were able to start bit by bit. And we're just gearing up until lockdown was lifted and we're still cruising. A few of our institutional clients are reopening, but of course, others are still at a minimum. But it's a great opportunity for us, because in the production sector, especially a sector that's depending on majority imports coming from outside. I mean, 80% of meat consumption in this country is coming from outside the country. It's a great opportunity for us, because now everybody is going to have to look inward. So it's not the best of times to be able to take advantage of this as a producer, but it's something that we've been pushing for a long time, and now we don't have a choice because everybody has to look inward because global trade is going to go down for the medium to medium term.
But later, things were a little bit okay for you.
Yes.
I'll be coming back to you about how you're managing now and whether the business module will change for you going forward. But Amayo, Deborah, I know you as a blogger, but it looks like you're also into content development and sales, marketing, and advertising, and everything that you can think about. So, and also you are all over the world. Are you in the country as we speak now?
Yes, I'm in the country at the moment.
Are you sure you're in Accra, Ghana?
Oh, yes, Accra.
So, Amayo, help me out. In your case, what was the shock, or you managed to weather the storms? Because people are still using a heavy on electronic media.
So for us, I think initially the first week of it was how to sort of work together as a team remotely. So one part of our business, which is the publishing on our website, that is easy to sort of do when you are home. So I know how to set them up so that at least they have internet access and everything, and they could work from there. But our video production part, of course, we had to be in the studio to do most of the production. So that had to grind to a halt. And so a big part of the video production was also event coverage, where we charge people to cover the event and publish it across the internet. And a lot of it was not happening anyway. So because nobody was holding events, so production sort of stopped as well. And in terms of even content, everything we're doing now is about Corona, because every news in the world is Corona. If somebody is doing a concert, it's related to coronavirus. And we have had to now fall on, as media, you only make revenue through your advertising and all sorts of promotions that come in. So we've had to rely on revenues coming in from Google adverts, Facebook, instant articles. But then all these major platforms, from Facebook to Google to even Twitter, they treat Corona as a pandemic. And so those content you cannot monetize, or the level you can monetize is very slow. So here's a case: we are doing majority content on this subject, and we are not making revenue on it from these platforms. And even those who would typically even advertise with us also don't have a need, or they don't see a need to advertise within this period because their services are not in demand. And so revenue from that side is also coming down. Most of them are doing more PR related sort of publicity. And so if they're doing a donation, then they will pay you something for you to do something around that. So revenues in general have declined. And funny enough, a lot of people thought that because you're online and everything is sort of moving to that direction within this period, it means that you are going to cash in. But in reality, that hasn't been the case.
Amayo, I'll also be finding out from you in terms of the agreement or the contract that you have with some of these providers that you are rendering service from. Have they come to you saying that, listen, we want to review those contracts?
Yeah, so we don't have a lot of long-term contracts, and currently we don't have any of those. So most of it is touch and go as and when they need it. So we haven't suffered from any of that yet because we don't have any long-term with anybody at the moment.
Amayo, you employ people as well. How are you managing that? For a big firm, they can still weather the storm by looking at other areas and all the rest. What are you telling your workers? And are they convinced, or do they understand you? Or they say, listen, we are into this with you?
Yes. So since it happened, there's been only one pay moment at the moment. And before it was going to happen, what I did was I had a discussion with them to tell them that they all know what's going on. There's no money coming in, etc. So I was going to pay them half of their various salaries, and they all agreed. But then also, fortunately for me, a few days later, we had a paid gig, and so I was able to use that money to say, you know what, let me just take care of the full payment for you for now, so that at least as we are still facing this, we will know what to do as the time goes on.
Amaya, I'll be coming back to you and Hisham, and don't forget that Charles Mensah, he's a financial consultant. He's also online with us, and also Tonya is here in studio with us. But I'll be getting onto the telephone lines right now to speak to somebody who actually is into the clothing line business. We still have to cover ourselves, whether there's corona or not, and whether, as for him, he has been able to weather the storm. Kweku Bediako is actually the creative director and founder of the chocolate line of business, or when it comes to fashion design. Kweku, how are you doing?
Great. Good evening to you, George. It's been a while. and good evening to everybody.
Good evening. And let me also ask you, you also always trotting around the globe and all the rest. Are you in Ghana?
Oh, boss, I'm in town. Okay. I don't have anywhere to go. Okay. We are all being quarantined.
That's great. In your case, I mean, we still have to put on clothes. We still have to get our clothes on. So can I say that in your case, well, things hasn't been that bad for you?
Hello? Sorry.
Kweku, can I say that in your case, because we still have to put on clothes even in these times, so things hasn't been that bad for you?
Well, let me just start by saying good evening to your listeners. I think it's trying times. It's very difficult times now, and it's not. We can't just say that because people wear clothes every day, we are indifferent about the pandemic going on. I think we were a bit fortunate. I think in January I was somewhere in Singapore when we had the corona spreading in China, and then when I got to the US in February, it was there as well. So I sort of anticipated that this was going to get to Ghana at some point, and I think for when I speak for business owners that plan always ahead, just in anticipation for any outcome, whether positive or negative, So I must say it's affecting us in terms of, we having standard and fixed costs monthly, which needs to be paid whether or not there's work or no work. And the fact that although we were, I got the win earlier, and we were able to plan a bit forward, we are still being affected by this because we've not worked in almost over 2 months now, and we're still waiting. I mean, hopefully we're getting back to work first week in May, but there's some amount of loss that we've registered.
Find out from you, looking at what has happened, and a lot of people are revising their notes and trying to look at their strategy again. For you, you are in the fashion business, the clothing business. Are things going to change for you? Is the business module going to be reviewed? So,
this I must say that this is the first time in 12 years that I've had to slow down and just go back to my notes, if I have to say that. I mean, it's been, and for lots of us businessmen, you're always trying to figure out and doing different kind of businesses, trying to put your nose here, your foot in there, etc. So for me, I think, the best of what I could do given the situation was to use this period to go back to the table, rethink, restructure, come up with different models that can beat these future pandemics. I think that's for me where my my thought process is. And so definitely, we are trying to restructure certain models that we've had in the past. We've had a lot of calls trying to get into these masks, these facial masks, and, coming up with different product lines, which are a bit different from, what the generic fashion product lines are. We are now being forced to look into other areas, which is rightfully so. I mean, the medical field, for example, I don't think prior to this pandemic, anyone's attention has ever gone into an industry like that. This gives us the opportunity to delve into other areas or other prospects that we can also look into. So to answer your question, yes, we are looking into other business, other product lines, and other opportunities, which is coming up, which is being presented to us because of this pandemic.
I mean, we all pray that it doesn't happen again, but do you think that you have learned a lot of lessons that if there's even another global pandemic, the shocks will be quite minimal for you?
Oh yeah, I mean, I said this earlier. I think that we need to for us business leaders and for us to be leaders, always trying to be ahead of, always being in sync with where global trends are going and where the focus or where the future lies should be our forte. We need to start thinking, okay, in the next 5 to 10 years, what sort of moves are we going to make? These moves should be dependent on both the positives and negatives. I saw this video, I think former President Obama did, talking about in some few years, some global cancer going to come. And, before we know it, or before we knew it, it's here. It's here. So I think as business leaders, as entrepreneurs, we need to pride ourselves in always anticipating, as we are sorting out all these prospects, as we are looking forward to, let's say, even touching on beyond the return. I mean, another key thing I was going to talk about was tourism. Ghana just launched year of return last year, and this year was beyond the return. Unfortunately, because of this pandemic, we've had all these numbers that we were expecting to come down and, come and patronize our industry, for example. It's all gone to, it's not going to be realized. I'm talking to people outside Ghana, and most of these guys are canceling their flights. They are not going to come to Ghana anytime this year. They are being forced to go back to their, going back to figure out whether or not it's even going to be a thing for them to even come. So for me, it's very important that as we start looking forward into all these, there's beyond the return. Okay, let's plan towards beyond the return. Let's also plan for certain hitches, certain setbacks, so that when these times happen, we don't just find ourselves wanting and be in a better position to sort of make plan properly, so that we will be able to cushion some of these mess ups if it still happens again, or if it never happens again. I think my biggest problem now is just uncertainty. When is this global pandemic going to go away? Okay, we were on lockdown for, let's say, 3 weeks to a month. Okay, we've not worked for 2 months. Okay, if we have to go back in May, are we promised that May, June, we are going to get people going to feel free to come to our shop? People going to feel free to travel, and so they will need to look a certain way on these trips. We are a bit uncertain on what the future lies, or where what the future will present in terms of this pandemic.
Before I let you go on the line,
okay.
in just a minute, I mean, you play much in the U.S. market, and you've seen the huge support that the government in that country is giving to small businesses and even the big businesses as well. Do you look forward to a similar thing being done for you in Ghana here?
You're putting me on the spot.
No, I'm just asking. This is not any sport. I mean,
so honestly, I think my opinion on government and its role and its role with us entrepreneurs, if I may, will be or is to. First of all, I'd like to commend the government. I think they've done tremendously well. I heard in terms of setting aside certain funding for different businesses. My view is it's not just with giving money to businesses. I think it's about time. I think one of your panel, one guy on the panel said something or hammered on the point that we've always been screaming out for local content. We want to be empowered.
Okay.
We want certain contracts to come our way so that we can empower our businesses and empower the general country.
Okay.
If instead of probably just giving us monetary support, what I'm going to advocate for is local content.
All right.
Is it possible the henceforth setting a lot of these businesses that will rather have gone to the hands of certain, people who are non-Ghanaian or not Ghanaian businesses, then could be then given to us so that we will also be able to be in a position to grow our businesses in support of the country's economy.
Kweku Bediako-Odro, he's founder and creative director at Chocolate Clothing Line. Thank you so much for your time and interesting thoughts there. And I'll also be coming to you about what you'll be looking for those external people and all the rest. But it will be a good time to get to Charles Mensah. He's a coach, actually, and a financial consultant. He actually works a lot of these SMEs out there. And I'll be coming back to you and also Hisham as well in terms of going forward about the business model. But Uncle Charles, I mean, listening to all these things, was it expected, or maybe, listen, we can get around this thing?
Well, George, thank you very much. I think having listened to my man Tony and the rest of the Kweku, you haven't brought the clothing for me yet.
Don't worry, after the corona, he's going to bring it.
Yes, the point is that, George, I think listening to the young men and the businessmen, I call them, is that there's an aspect that was missing: the flexibility of their production lines and the multiple revenue streams. If I take Tony, for instance, if you look at when Tony presented, basically in doing shoes, people need shoe to go out, and there was a lockdown. So where are you going to wear the shoe to? Yeah. So Tony, in doing the shoes, there was an opportunity where the PPE came in, where the health ministry or the health sector needed health boot, if I may use that word, health booth. Now, it was a flexibility in his production line, maybe an opportunity for him to grab it. I saw a certain opportunity for the big business people, the Gihog and the Kasapreko, when there was opportunity for them to do the sanitizers. They did. They quickly turned the production line, used some raw material there, and within 6 days, they're delivering production line. Now, much as these are young businesses, I think in their strategy going forward, they ought to be looking at multiple streams of activity, multiple streams. It's just like investing in ice cream and umbrellas. When it's shining, ice cream. When it's raining, umbrellas. So if you're so dependent on one production line, when there's a problem, you would have a difficulty. And therefore, if you take one after the other, my friend Ameya lost out in the event activity side because he had a video production line, weddings. Now there's no wedding. If people even are doing, they are doing online wedding. So if he can think of how he can use his production line to do multiple things. So it's just hard thinking now. It's an opportunity for us to be thinking just beyond our current production activity. If you look at it, all of a sudden, nobody thought of using the Zoom like it should have been.
And we are using it right now.
If you look at my activity, we're using it right now. We're using Skype and we're using it right now. If you look at my activity, 2 years ago, we started a cloud accounting services. So when this thing happened, we thought the revenue from the cloud activity was very small, but all of a sudden it shot up. So you always have to be looking at multiple streams of activity. Don't be too fixated on the current stream of production line. I am doing this and nothing more, nothing else. I'm growing the numbers there. Be thinking more. How flexible is your production line? If you look at my friend, the meat person, he said something very interesting, that most of the meat that he gets or the animals are imported or he exports. Now, this is a time that to look at backward integration, to speak to those who are rearing the cow, the cattle, and the poultry. I don't know whether it does poultry, but the pigs and all those. So it's all sort of looking inwardly to say, what can we do now? Because don't focus too much on it, on the current production line. Think beyond that, just in case. You must always plan, what if this thing happens? What if this thing happens? Because if you don't look at what if this thing happens, you'll be a problem. If I look at the chocolate, my friend who does the clothing. Yes, he was making clothes for people, but we know nobody's going out. But people are staying home. We can be doing pajamas, domestic clothing. Because if you're at home and you're not stepping out, there must be clothing line you have. So all sorts of things. This is a thinking time for them. Now, the government, I'm told, through the National Board for Small Scale Industry.
Uncle Charles, I'll be coming to you again in terms of the way forward. But I want to quickly get back to them. Tonya is in here, Siri, then I'll be getting to you, Amaya Deborah, and also Hisham Seidu, in terms of the business model or modeling going forward. Have you learned the lessons that you're already working on it, or you think that, oh, Corona will go away, let me go ahead with my business, charging from the advice coming in from Charles Mensa and all the rest? Is this something that you want to work on, or you are planning to work on, to ensure that the next shocks that might come, you can weather the storm?
We all agree that after Corona, life will not be the same. So yes, we at Horseman Shoes, we have thought through it as to what we can do differently. And even during when the crisis was at its peak, we had to change our marketing communication, because you cannot do hardcore marketing or else you'll be insensitive to the situation. So we have to come out with communication that is themed around Corona, not necessarily to sell, but also to put our brand in the minds of people. Moving forward, we have to really increase our online presence, start an e-commerce business. So hopefully by the first week of May, we are launching our e-commerce, where we will try sell online. Now, people don't want to come into the center of town. So they are at the comfort of their homes or their offices, they order online, and deliveries are made to them. So these are some of the things that we will change going forward. And it will not be just immediately after Corona, but it has come to stay.
It's work in progress.
Yes.
And the fact that I get from you that, listen, I have learned my lessons and it won't be business as usual.
No, it won't.
Hisham said, you are into meat production as well, and we will need this meat in our soup and in our stews and our jollof rice and all the rest. So I get for you, are you caught in that space where you think that the model, well, maybe it shouldn't change, or it has to change going forward? Hisham, if you can hear me.
Change. For us, the model doesn't have to change per se. It was just to correct Charles. We're actually into production. We produce livestock. And it's something we've been trying to do intensively for the past 5 years. So we now have to find ways of increasing our production and then improving on what we're producing, because the opportunity is now there for us. We just have to find a way of tweaking it at the marketing and retailing and be able to reach more people, because now we'll be able to take advantage of the opportunity to supply to our domestic customers, because people are more inclined to remain at home and are advised to stay at home. And so it's something we're looking to see how best we can take advantage of. Fortunately, policy direction from the government has been to try and boost livestock production locally. So that's something that has been done for the past few years. There are a few projects that are looking at it, like the Rearing for Food and Jobs and then the Savannah Investment Program. So there are opportunities out there for entrepreneurs within the space to grab onto, and no time is better than now. As human beings, we adapt, we evolve, and there's no better time than now to try and take advantage of the situation and look on the bright side. I mean, let's look at it from the point of view that the glass is half full instead of half empty.
Let me bring in Aboagye-Deborah, and after that I'll take a short break and I'll come back and we'll look at moving forward and what will be the governmental role in all these things. I mean, will you say that going forward you look more into locking down clients to long-term contracts to save some of these things? That is, if they will come.
Yes, well, it does happen as and when. It's just that at the moment we don't have any major long term. But for me, like Charles said, it's important that we sort of evolve. And I belong in the space where we are constantly evolving, learning, and reinventing to be relevant. And so for me, I just have to study the trends as in how globally people online are now looking at options around advertising, around content creation, etc., and then tap into that because it's a constantly evolving place. And so we just have to really be alert, learn, read, and find out what the new trends are that we can all tap into in terms of the global ecosystem.
So thank you so much, Amanda. We'll be taking a quick break, and when we are back, I'll be getting back to Charles Mensah, a financial consultant and an SME coach, as in what should these small businesses be doing going forward, and what should be the role of government in all these things. Let's talk about some 600 million Ghana cedis fund for SMEs. When is it going to start being disbursed and all the rest? This is the business edition of PM Express. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to the business edition of PM Express, and tonight we're talking about the coronavirus and the fate of these small businesses out there. You hear from them how they are surviving, but going forward, how do we protect them? I mean, the big firms are laying off, they are shutting down. What about these small fish? Can they survive in the ocean, or we need to rescue them? On the line and through Zoom is actually Charles Mensah. He is a financial consultant. Hashim Seidu, he is with the meat production firm. Aboagye-Deborah is into content production and also events and all those things. And you heard from Kweku Bediako, he is into clothing. He's a fashion designer. And Tonye Senyaya, I was struggling with the name.
Tonye Senyaya.
Tonye Senyaya, he's also in... Okay, we'll talk about that after the show. He's into the manufacturing of shoes as well. But listen, it's also about solutions and the way forward. And in these times, at least, what do they do? Should they go to the bank or look up to government in trying to protect their space as a business? Uncle Charles, Mr. Charles Mensah, going forward, what should these guys be doing?
I think first and foremost, bookkeeping, the records are pretty important. I believe all of them, I believe, and I strongly, especially Tony, I know that he's registered his company. Now, if companies are registered and you are doing what is right, i.e. keeping your proper books of accounts, that means you have a record. So there's an evidence that in the last couple of weeks, you've lost revenue. And therefore, when you present your case to National Board for Small Scale Industry, because I'm told that they are going to manage that 600 or 300 million cedis for SME support. So this is not the time that people are going to exaggerate, but you would show evidence, like everybody said. They've lost revenue. I mean, I have lost revenue from events. So if you can demonstrate that, look, these are the contracts I was expecting, these are my margins that I get from those contracts, and because of these, I've lost that kind of money. So I need a breather. So when you calculate, you'll be able to give Ameya what he needs. So Ameya will not be exaggerating or lying about the figures. So going forward, or by now, everybody from SME that has 2 persons working for them up to persons that have 100 persons working for them, you need to have proper books of accounts and ensuring that you have it records and there's evidence. This is not the time that you're going to say, oh, I think my sales was, I think. You don't use I think. This is the evidence point of view. Because almost everybody here mentioned from from Bediakun to Tony to my friend Hisham, they all have records to show that, look, he had problem initially when the thing happened. And then when you say you have a problem, that means that you have a financial problem. Because once you lose sales, you lose profit. You have a cash flow challenge. So you can demonstrate that with the National Board for Small Scale Industry. And then they'll be able to come in and look at it. Now, in terms of they themselves strategically, I think at each point in time, it's very hard from our part of the world. But then strategically, you must ensure that you have a flexible working capital environment. Don't keep too much of your revenue streams in debt, because you are not in the business to sell debt. You are in the business to sell money. And therefore, 90 days credit, 60 days credit, 30 days credit is gone. Now, let's look at if there's a possibility that you can reduce your price and get the margins dropped to 10% or 15%, because your margins will be 20%, but it takes time for it to be paid. And that can create a problem for you going forward. So see how you can reduce your margins and get your cash, because you're in the cash business. The processes of turning the money, your activity into cash is key going forward. Once you have your cash, you can turn around quickly, just like the Georgs, the Kasapekun did when the opportunity came and they grabbed that. Can you imagine if they had a lot of debtors? How would they have converted into cash for them to be able to turn around and grab the opportunity? So always try and have some level of flexibility and have some cash there for 3 months of your activity. Must always be kept in pure cash, and that's what you should do. It won't happen immediately, but focus on that so that in future, maybe in 2 years now, you at each point in time have flexibility of cash running in your business.
Uncle Charles, hold on, I'll get back to you again. Hisham, in trying to move the business forward and the shocks and the hits that you've taken to your revenue and all the rest, I engage some small businesses and they complain about the bureaucracy and the processes you have to go through in dealing with government and all the rest. Going forward, turning the business around, dealing with the shocks and the revenue loss, is it prudent for you? Or are you going to go to government, or listen, let me do my private business, let me engage my bankers, and let's move forward?
I mean, as a young business, we need as much support as we can get. I mean, we need money. We need that push. But then it's not as simple as that. So where government can come in is with policy. In my business, for instance, at the production level, a lot needs to be done with breed improvements, simple education about bushfires and all that. Those are the areas I need government to come in the most. Because right now we keep hearing issues about Fulani herdsmen and farmers and destroying farms and shooting of civilians and herdsmen. There are a lot of tensions out there. At our end, we're trying to do it intensively. We try to mobilize as much feed as we can during the lean season to keep the animals confined. We feed them. And it's something that could be replicated across the country. So first and foremost, it's policy. We need government to come in with that strength that it has to give us a voice. Let it be heard that, look, we don't need farmers or villagers burning their fields after harvest. We need to find ways of being able to coexist with other rural folk where we grow our animals. So that's the first step. We also need to push local production, just as was the campaign to eat locally produced rice.
Okay.
I mean, as a country, we're a net importer of food. So we need to push the eat local, grow local. We need to push it much stronger than we are right now on TV, on radio, everywhere.
Okay. Hisham, thank you. Amayo Deborah, there's talk about some money available for small and medium scale enterprises like yours. Are you prepared to open your books for that governmental support?
Well, I should be prepared, but technically I'm not looking forward to that because also my space is such a way that it's more from revenues I made through advertising and all of that. My immediate way of sort of surviving this is to give advertisers more reason to use the various services that I have, finding creative ways of creating digital content for them. And all of that, but I'm not immediately looking at that sort of support that the government has for the SMEs. I don't even know if I qualify.
Interesting. Why is it because you're afraid to open your books?
No, I'm not afraid to open my book at all because the book now there isn't so much in it.
There's no book for the book to be open. Tanya, I mean, are you prepared? And again, there's been concerns about bookkeeping and all the rest. Prepared to open your book so that if government has to come in and support you, they can do that?
Sure. I mean, in building our business, we have gone through a series of programs, including some from Charles Mensah. So yes, bookkeeping is really a part of us. So yes, we are really open for that. But George, let me say that government support is not necessarily money. And this
policy-wise,
yeah,
as well.
policy-wise, I think I have always been saying that government should build capacities of local businesses. And when I say capacity, it doesn't necessarily mean putting money into the business, creating markets, creating avenues where SMEs will grow from making X amount of revenue to times 5X. We are tired of doing piecemeal businesses. Do you understand? So imagine when you go to Kumasi, for instance. Kumasi is the hub of shoemaking, yet we still have tons of shoes being imported into this country. People say, why don't government ban importation of shoes? Then I ask the question, if government ban importation of shoes, are shoemakers ready?
Do you have the capacity to produce? Yeah.
Exactly. And this must be deliberate. Businesses are trying, but there must be a policy where governments are deliberate in growing local businesses. The Kumasi folks supply shoes to the West African sub-region.
Okay.
And now that the borders are closed, meaning they are losing, they are not coming in. And on the other side, footwear that coming from China will not be able to come immediately. So assuming if we had the capacity to fill the markets with locally made shoes, I mean, nobody would bother to go to China.
Tanya, I'll still let you have the last. So let me go on to the line and then get Mr. Charles Mensah's thoughts about, in about 2 minutes, Charles, what should be the engagement between all these SMEs and then government going forward in just 2 minutes? From these SMEs, you get to understand that they are not just interested in the handout, but deliberate policies to grow their sector. In 2 minutes, Charles, what should be the way forward in terms of their engagement with government? They talk about some 600 million and all the rest. How should they engage government going forward when it comes to growing the sector?
I think George, Tony made a very solid point. It's not just the money. I feel strongly that government also could come in and deliberately insist that shoes, for instance, I'm talking about shoes, I'll use it as an example, shoes for the kids in SSS and GHS ought not to be imported, has to be made or bought from Ghanaians. Clothing line, clothes for SSS and JHS would be made by Ghanaians. So that deliberate policy, just like they used the buffer stock to support the food program, same thing can be done. Same thing, and then meat. I mean, I have a piggery farm, so don't worry if you need pigs. You should contact me. But meat, same thing. We must have a deliberate policy. And also, government by now ought to be identifying businesses. See, sometimes businesses don't want to apply, but you can identify them. Then MBSS, they can send people to the field to go to Debras and the Tony to their offices. At least you can identify them. Go and find out what they need. It's not always that you have to sit in the office and then ask them to bring application, bring this. Sometimes it's irritating. So people don't go. Did you hear what I may have said? He says, maybe I don't know government. You see, meanwhile, government is prepared to pay, but because of the bureaucracy and the bureaucratic way of doing things. So I think it's high time we put field men there. Just like we put field men there to identify the coronavirus, we should put field men there to identify businesses and support them. This is the way forward. So you see a field person there say, oh, business support services officer from MBSS. We are identifying business to support them. I think that's the way forward, that we can have this, because Ghanaians can always rise up to occasion. And this has shown it. PPE has shown it. Sanitizer have shown it. Mouth masks have shown it. So we need to rise up and allow Ghanaians to take the helm of affairs. It will help us, because I want to see 5 years' time, this will be part of the Forbes for Africa.
Okay, it looks like time is not, it's unfortunate that whilst the discussion was getting interesting, time is not on our side. Hisham said, I'd like to thank you so much. Deborah, I need to thank you so much. And then Charles Mensah, great guys, young guys out there blazing the trail out. And I hope that the future will be good for all of us. Tonye, 30 seconds. I mean, is the future bright? Or you think that it's kind of still blur?
Well, I mean, there is still uncertainty, and the uncertainty is bringing about anxiety. But definitely, I'm sure Corona will go. But before Corona goes, we will put in place innovative ways to still stay afloat until we get our grounding back. It will not be immediate. That is what is bringing the anxiety. But surely, certainly, we shall pass through this.
Tonye, I'm still struggling with your name, and we have to draw the curtain down here on the business edition of PM Express. But we'll still be on this lane in terms of engaging small businesses out there and how they are faring, and expect another one next week. My name is Aboagye-Wiafe. This has been the business edition of PM Express, and I know the discussion, the debate will still go on out there. Corona and the small businesses. Have a great day.